Paranormal. It's so funny. Like I'd forgotten about this because I'm a big believer in my parents are both dead, cancer. But I believe in people like the afterlife and all that stuff. But this is definitely paranormal. Like years ago, I was dating a girl that lived in Philly. Okay, like Old Town Philly, and they say there's a lot of ghosts there. And so I can't remember. It was like, it doesn't matter where it was, but it was like South Street or like a couple blocks off South Street. And I was staying at her place, but she was away on work or something. So I live in New York, but I'm staying at her place in Philly alone that night. And it's like one of those old row houses. And I'll never forget, the neighbors said something to the effect of there's like that place is like the upstairs is like, they say it's haunted and like doors lock and shit. And that night, like I wake up in the middle of the night and it's so fucking hot, and both thermostats had been set, they were just cranked up all the way to the highest fucking setting.
No one was there.
No one was, just me. Just me and my pants full of shit. Just me. And it was, and there was no question in my mind that something.
Because it wasn't turned up that way when you went to sleep.
No, it was not turned up that way when I went to sleep. It was like this time of year. It was like autumn,
Yeah.
And it was like when I went to bed, it was like fine. And then I woke up, and both of them, and here's the thing, I didn't even know where the second one was. It was like so fucking hot. Like there was, because it's like two different rooms, and I turned one down, and that wasn't even like for the bedroom, and it was like the other one was like in the hall, because when they separate.
So they both turned up?
Yeah. Isn't that fucking nuts?
It's so weird, especially because isn't it usually like a presence of a ghost is cold because they take like the energy out of the air.
Yeah, but both thermostats were turned.
Maybe they were trying to get the fuck out of the house.
Yeah, they're like, this guy stinks. Let's fucking sweat him out of here.
So, but that the feeling that you had, you were scared.
Yeah, like the skin stands up when I remember it. It was like it's like one of those things. Like, look, you can believe it or not, but there was no question there's still no question in my mind that was something. That was some kind of spirit just fucking cranking up the heat. And I think it was because the guy, when the guy said it was the day the guy said it to me. And it's almost like they're like, yeah, look, we'll show you he's not fucking around.
Did your chick at the time have any similar experiences?
Not that I know of, but I told her, I'm like the heat was on really high. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, all right, just drop it. Because I didn't want her to didn't want,
Maybe it didn't like that you were there.
It might have, because that's the only time, there was no, it was her place, and I had my place up here, but for some reason that night I think it was
angry because you had worse tits to look at.
I had these sloppy, ugly man tits.
It's like, bring back the hot chick, dude. Exactly. Let's get this guy out of here.
This little monkey with tits is not doing it for me. But yeah, it was weird, but there's no question in my mind. Like, it still freaks me out. Yeah.
I like it.
Fuck.
Yeah, that's right. It's better than my date story. And then I bought this spirit drinks all night. She turned out to be a hooker spirit.
I have two. I guess you could tell me if you want one or the other or both. One of them happened to me, and one of them happened to a friend. The one that happened to a friend I think is scarier. The one that happened to me is just like very interesting.
Okay, let's hear you first.
Okay.
And we'll see how we're doing on time.
Okay. So I was sleeping. I was in LA. This was probably 4 years ago. I was sleeping next to this guy I was dating, laying in bed, and I have this dream, and I don't have very vivid dreams ever, and I have this super vivid dream that I'm in this bed, and I'm in my bed, I sit up, and my TV is like starting to play this movie, and I'm suddenly in this place where I'm like sitting, waiting for a friend to show up, and we're going to watch a movie together. That's like where I just woke up in this setting in this dream. And I have a friend that comes into my apartment. I see them come in. They're wearing a hoodie. It's almost like a movie night, like a hoodie and sweatpants. They come sit next to me. I never see the face. And they come sit next to me in bed, and I see like the bed press, and they come sit next to me, and the movie starts, and we're both just watching the movie, and I can feel that this is a close friend because I feel very comfortable. Just someone I've just always been around. The movie starting, we're watching, and out of the corner of my eye, I see that person pull out a silencer, like a gun, out of their hoodie, and when I turned, they put it against their forehead and just killed themselves, and then the person next to me just dropped, like head first, onto the blanket, and I looked over, and like a pool of blood dripped out from their head and started soaking into my pants. Like I just
I fucking knew it was coming, and it still got me.
That's pretty good.
You son of a bitch.
Up. Holy shit.
Yeah. Fucking got me, and I'm not.
Right when my drink was arriving,
We've
so
had
I was
guests
fucking not paying
jump
attention.
out of the chair.
That scared the shit out of me.
Such a cunt, Brian. Look at his face. Look how fucking pleased with
guts.
himself he
So
is.
pleased with yourself.
I'm like, keep an eye on Brian. He's gonna click a button soon. Yeah, no.
So this pool of water drips onto my leg, and I look over, and I know that my friend is dead. And I, very frustrated in my dream, I said, "Why would you do that?" And then I just heard a voice. It was unrecognizable. Still, I knew. You know when you know someone, but you don't really in a dream. And then that person said, "I'm sorry, I'm dying." And then I woke up out of my sleep. I've never ever in my life woken up out of a bad dream. It was like one of the first times in my life that something woke me up, and I woke up next to the guy I was dating, and I was just sobbing, and he had to like calm me down and be like, "It was just a dream, calm down," like real movie style. And I went back to sleep, and then when I woke up to a call 2 hours later that one of my best friends just died in a car
Oh my
accident.
God.
That's
What
insane.
the fuck?
Yeah, that's.
Was it self-inflicted in any
No.
way?
It had. I've
was
already
just
tried
the
to like.
message of death,
yeah,
yeah.
it was just like a feeling of someone I knew dying,
Right.
and I remember how like I could feel it in my chest, like being really like sure that whoever was next to me was dead in the moment. And then I got that call, and I was like, I didn't even put like I couldn't even process my dream at that moment because you know how you forget for a little bit. And I was like crying, and I was telling the guy, and he was like, "Well, you woke up crying last night because you said someone died." And then I did the time, and it was like the same exact time.
Oh, wow. Was that like, has anything ever happened to you like that another time?
I've had weird stuff with that specific person dying, like little weird things like after he died. Like I kept seeing people that look like him, but I think that's also like when you're grieving, you kind of look for that stuff. And like shit kept popping up. Like I kept meeting people with his name over and over again, and like just things like
I
that.
believe that shit.
I feel like this has come up on the show before. Seeing the face and hearing the name. Hasn't that come up on the show before? Yeah. I feel like this is something
I
that,
told
that
the
has
story?
come up. No. I feel like somebody else has said something similar to that.
Yeah, and like I remember like a few days after he died, his name was Brandon, but I called him B, and that's what and he was like my best friend in college. It was very interesting. We had a very interesting friendship because we were both like straight people. We never fucked, but we hung out every day when just kind of like hook each other up with our friends. We had
Nice.
that kind of friendship, you know?
Wingman kind of
yeah,
status.
a wingman
That's the
friendship.
best, yeah.
And he was like my best friend in college for years. And I called him B. And then like there was like a few days after I was driving to work, and I was crying, and I was thinking about him. And I like stopped crying. Then our song, like this song that we would always play on the jukebox, started playing, and I was like, "That's fucking weird." And then I was like, "Stop crying," because I was like, "That's weird." I started paying attention to that, and then I noticed that a bumblebee was like driving alongside my car, but it was keeping up with the speed, and I was like, "I've never seen a bug be able to fly as fast as my car's going." And then I instinctively just turned to it, not thinking, and I went, "Hi, bee." And then I got like goosebumps instantly. And I was like, that's weird too. And it was just like a bunch of stuff. And then I met like 3 Brandons that day that all specifically came up and introduced themselves to me. It was like a very weird couple days around his death that was like a very strong presence of like everything that reminded me of him would come around. Every song he liked, it was like a bunch of shit.
So do you think it's because of like you are like such a strong connection, or like he's trying to send you a message like, "I'm here, I'm good"?
Maybe. I don't even know if I believe in that far. I just believe that probably when you're very connected with someone, you can, it's almost like when you can feel someone looking at you. There's no explanation for that. You can just feel it, and you look and they're looking at you. I think it's just like you get connected with people and you can feel when they leave. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but it was more than that. You know, like those little coincidences afterwards.
Even last week, I was thinking about that story because I was looking at this tattoo Instagram. This was pretty interesting. I was looking at this tattoo Instagram, and I saw like an elephant. He had this huge elephant tattoo on his elbow that was really cool, and he was obsessed with elephants. And I was thinking I should get a tattoo for B of a little elephant from this tattoo artist. He's great. And then I scrolled down 3 more pictures, and the next tattoo he did was a giant letter B with a bumblebee swirling through it. And I was like, well, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Like, that's just like the story. But then also, like, people probably look for that stuff. I don't know. I'm very torn in between, like, coincidence and, like, it's a sign. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot of different things, though. But, like, do you feel like you're sensitive in any way to stuff like that?
I do.
Okay. Have you had other experiences?
Yeah, but they get so weird that I feel like a weirdo telling them.
This is a place to tell them, Kim.
I know.
Yeah, you're in a safe space. And I have more whiskey, so you're good.
No one's going to remember this story.
I've told this story like before, like Sarah Weinschenk, I was having like a lot of weird coincidences happening to me, and I was telling her about it. Even to the point where one time I said like, I was watching Grey's Anatomy, and I was talking to her, and I was like, everything I say just like pops up right after I say it. And I was like, and I said something so specific, like I can say like, horse's toe. And then the guy on Grey's Anatomy literally said the words right after I said it. Like I was having weird fucking shit happening. So she bought me this book on synchronicities and how
E squared.
no, it was called
Celestine Prophecy.
no.
That's not a
You
bad
should
book.
read that book.
I read that book.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
The second one sucks. The first one's great.
There was like 3 afterwards.
Did you read
They
E
get
squared by
worse.
Pam Grout?
No, let me
read
it
E
down.
squared by
Really?
read E squared by Pam Grout. It's just 9 exercises, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like you read the intro, and then it asks you to do 9 exercises. And the first time I did it, like 4 or 5 of them like worked, like
Really?
literally. And it's just like, look, just open your mind. Look, we're all energy. It's a fact. The same atoms that we're all, this table, me, you, the microphone,
A
the
faggot.
the word faggot. They're all made up of energy, and it's also a fact that like attracts like. So
That's
it's
true.
it's a fact. It's a simple fact. We're all made of atoms, and it's a simple fact that atoms like atoms attract like atoms. And so
Well,
you
you can
draw
do.
that
They've
stuff
done
in.
experiments with them where they have like specific things like each other, and they put them in like a Plinko thing, and they all divide into their own thing, even
Yeah.
though they're all the same weight and height and like.
E squared, Pam Grout. Then she has a second book, E cubed, which is why it gave me my philosophy on money. Money's like blood in the body. The more you spend it, the more it comes back.
I
Not
agree
like-
with that.
I should be
Oh,
rich.
I'm not trying to be rich or famous. I mean, I'm just like I wake up every day. It's like I'm getting away with stuff the way I live my life.
Yeah.
And the more you, like if you had
I
blood,
agree with that.
If you had blood in your body, would you want to keep it? No, that's called a stroke. The more you spend it, the more it comes back.
Right.
And that was an exercise in E cubed, the next book, where she's like, I want you to take.
Oh, I'm getting this
Take
book.
like $100, $200, and just hide $5 bills everywhere. Just give it away. And this is the other one. People make fun of me, but when you find a penny on the ground, I don't give a fuck if it's heads up, tails up. I don't care if it's you pick it up and you just celebrate because the universe doesn't understand money.
Penny or 100 or
Yes. So it just knows you're happy to get money.
You know, and I'm real shitty with change. I'll just throw a quarter in the trash.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
to stop.
I'll just wing it at a homeless person from the top.
I
of
hit them. I make sure it hurts.
No, that's just
You're
me,
gonna get the
cruel.
quarter,
No,
but you're
an
gonna feel
asshole. But E squared is the first one, and she's got a website, Pam Grout. I don't. She lost her daughter. Died of a brain aneurysm. It's ridiculous. I don't know why I brought that, but it blew me away. But oh my god, so her name is Pam Grout, and she's
Okay.
a great author, and I want to hear your story. But this proves my point. I'm like, I love this chick. She was like I found that book just when I needed it, just when I was going through my life, and I was like, fuck it. I just moved to Harlem. I left Brooklyn, all that, whatever. But I said I'd love to fucking be on a show. So one day out of the blue, a buddy of mine who lives in North Carolina now, true story. Why can't Ryan something? He's like, I do a podcast. He's like, I just want you to call in and be an angry drunk Santa. I'm like, all right. He's like, and then we'll interview you. I'm like, who else is on the show? He's like, I have this chick Pam Grout. I'm like,
No.
shut the fuck up.
It's crazy.
I'm like, tweet it now. I want to be in a tweet with Pam Grout. It was incredible.
That's great.
Yeah, I didn't get to meet
It was
her, but-
meant to be.
Yeah, but anyway, and I want to get back to E squared. E squared, read that, then you'll get to E cubed. But you two will be great at the way you talk. So anyway, what's your other story?
Okay, so the book was like Eastern Mind, Western Medicine or something like that. One of those books.
Oh, I love this Western medicine. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'm reading this book, and it's all about synchronicities, and I've had such weird ones, and I'm on this flight, and I'm reading the book, and I get kind of tired. I'm like, I'm gonna take a break, and I go to close the book, and I notice that there's already a bookmark in it. And
Oh, come on.
I go to use my bookmark, my boarding pass as my bookmark, and I notice that Sarah Weinshank also must have been reading it on a plane and put her boarding pass as her bookmark. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Haha, synchronicity. And I kind of made that joke. And then I looked at our 2 boarding passes, and we were both sitting in 13F when we read the book. And I was like, just thinking, like, what are the chances out of all the seats in the plane to even be in row 13 and then be specifically both in F, like weeks after? I don't know. It was just very weird. I don't know.
But it's also you either believe it or you don't.
Right.
You know,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I have a story like my mother, when I was a kid growing up, we had a player piano. And you think everyone has that growing up. And her favorite song, and mine became The Girl from Ipanema, do. So my mother, when she was dying, like on her deathbed, I was humming that song to her. So she dies 12:04, October 4th, okay, in the morning. A year later, I'm like, look, I want to be... I had to make it, so I go to Venice because her favorite place in Venice was this place called the Bridge of Sighs, which I don't know if it's famous. The Bridge of Sighs because Venice is all bridges and canals. And when the Doge's palace, where the kings were when they used to sentence people to death, they'd sentence them to death, and then they would go to where they were going to die in the cells. But there's a bridge, that goes over the canal with a small window, and they would look at it, their last look of the world, and they would sigh. So it was called the Bridge of Sighs. And my mother had a picture of that in her house going up. So I'm like, a year to her death, I want to be at the Bridge of Sighs, and that's at the Piazza San Marco. So I go there, and it's midnight, 4 minutes, and I get a Manhattan because that's what my mother drank. And I was a dick that whole year. I was so miserable. And I'm like, what am I? I'm here now. What do I do next? And there's a band on the fucking piazza, and at midnight they start playing "The Girl from Ipanema."
No.
And in that moment, and this is my point. You either believe it or you don't. But my mother was there, and she was saying to me, she's like, I raised you better than this. You're a happy person. You've been miserable, and I didn't. And I'm telling you, you either believe it or you don't. But that was it in that moment. So I threw the Manhattan. I went to the Bridge of Sighs, and I threw the Manhattan in the water. And a rose. I got a rose, threw the rose in the water, kept 3 petals, gave one to my brother, kept one, and gave one to my Aunt Olga, her sister. But
that's a great story.
But that's
exactly what I mean, though.
Yes.
Like things like that where you go there and you're like, there's no way this song would have played here tonight. I never hear this song.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so weird. And I think the more that you're open to it, the more those things start happening around you. And I remember at one point in LA, it started when I was getting strong and Sarah gave me that book. Me and my friend Emily were like, should we even say it's weird? Like, is it wrong to be like, this is so weird? Or is this just what it is? And like most people ignore it.
But you have to say, you have to tell, you have to let I know I sound like I'm going to sell you a Dianetics book, but you have to it's gratitude. And when you tell the universe, like, I get it. I saw what you did there. Thank you. I saw that. You have to.
I mean, I think the universe doesn't understand tone, so you can't be like, fuck. It'll be like, oh, it didn't like that.
It's got a sense of humor
in the book, The Celestine Prophecy, which you should also read. It's fictional, but it's based on actual beliefs. And the whole point about most of it is that when you're experiencing synchronicities, it's a sign that you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Okay.
And more and more will happen as you're getting to it's such a freaking literally life-changing book.
Really?
Yeah, you can get an Audible, whatever. If there's a movie, don't watch it. It's the worst thing in the whole wide world.
Okay.
And the next one, the 12th, whatever.
There's the 10th because this is about the 9 insights is a Celestine prophecy, and then there's the 10th, and then I think there's the 11th.
I didn't even get the 10th was so
weird.
bad compared to how great the first one was.
The first one is amazing. Yeah. Anyway,
and it says you go through life with a certain every.
Well, you also physically start feeling different. You can almost feel yourself vibrating when you're in that.
It talks about that in the book.
You feel kind of lighter, you feel like a mild version of when your leg falls asleep in your whole body.
Yeah.
I actually did experience that once. Now we've totally lost Maddie and Nate.
Yep.
No, I'm
going.
following along. I
I
ordered a book.
Fucking crazy.
What'd you order?
I almost cried after that story. All I'm thinking about is all our synchronicities. You'll text me, we need booze. I'm on my way to the fucking liquor store already.
Then you start sourcing it. Everything. The 3 main things I'm doing now, like the podcast with Berg. I just bumped into him one night at the stand. He's like, "You wanna?" It's like he's like, "Do you do a podcast?" I'm like, during football season, and I'm like, why? And Berg says, well, he's like, someone asked me today, and I said, if I ever did a podcast, I'd want to do it with Geno. And we start one on my laptop, and in 4 months, we're at Compound Media. That's just, know, and I talk about it all the time because I'm like, thank you. Because I'm done my spot. I'm like, let me hang out for another drink, It's like, and it just works like that.
Yeah.
I don't know my point. I apologize.
I know, that's okay. I don't know what I was going to say before, so we're going to move on to the next segment, which now feels really weird to talk about.
We never heard
after
the spooky.
Oh, that's right, the Friends story.
I want to hear the Friends story if it's because yours was freaky.
I mean, it's really fucked up.
Is
if
it?
you have a second, I can
5
speed
minutes?
it up. Yeah, I can speed it up. Okay, so my friend Melissa, really poor girl growing up, right? Pig. Her parents. So this is an important note. Her parents were hoarders. You could barely walk through the house. They had one trail, where you could, and everyone had their beds, and that's where you slept. There was no room for anything. So they were so poor growing up. Her mom went to a garage sale and bought her a bed. It was a garage sale after the wife's a whole old couple, and she was selling everything because her husband had died.
Right.
So they bought the bed and put it in Melissa's room, and it was her bed.
Never
And
goes
she
well.
said the first night in the bed.
This is already freaking me out.
The first night in the bed, and this is someone I've known since 2nd grade. She's not a liar. She's just not a crazy girl. Doesn't have crazy stories. Doesn't even believe in synchronicities like us. Not even there. So she tells me the first night she's laying in bed, and her brother, who would normally come in and steal her socks before school when it was still dark from her drawer, she heard someone come into the room. She saw that it was the height of her brother, and she saw them go over to their sock drawer, and she was waiting for him to steal the socks, and then she was like, I got you, and she caught him, and then that thing disappeared. disappeared. And that's what happened the first night. And she was like, that was
You're an asshole.
fuck you.
You're an asshole.
And that was just the first night. So then like she said like every night she would feel kind of weird in the bed. It started making her nervous to be in her own room. She said like just progressively sleeping in the bed got creepier, and she decorated the headboard with those like Mardi Gras beads because she was a teenager and she's dumb. And she said after the first week, the bed started rocking every night. This is a true story. She said the bed would rock just slightly. She thought it was in her head for the first week. The second week, it started rocking harder.
I thought she was on a boy.
a boy.
A boy.
Bright? Bright.
Was it a water bed?
I really like what you did there. I really
The
like it.
dingo ate your baby.
Pretty good.
This is a great time, right?
Yeah.
She said by the second or third week, the bed was rocking so hard at night that she was sure it was rocking now, and the beads were hitting the wall and making like a ch.
Whoa.
Terrifying.
And she tried to tell her mom. Her mom didn't believe her. She told her brothers. No one believed her. Every time she said she came in the room, it stopped rocking. Like it would stop.
How old is she? Like where in her
She's
teens
like
is she?
has to be 11 or 12
Okay, so
at this
too
point.
young for people to really believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then no one's believing her. And then she says like she just had that bed for 6 months, and every night it would rock her to sleep. She just had this weird moment, like, and when her parents would come in, it would stop. Like it would stop rocking like moments before they came in. Like it knew to like make the thing stop.
So it wasn't a bad rock. It was a good rock.
It was just like every night. And then one day her mom just suddenly opened the door to get something at like 2 a.m. and saw that the bed was like violently shaking while her daughter was in it, and they threw it out that night.
With the daughter.
Isn't that crazy?
insane.
And she was like, my mom made me sleep in a ghost bed for 6 months because nobody would believe me.
Did she think it was good or bad?
She was like traumatized. She's traumatized from it
That's
now. She was like,
crazy.
to have to sleep in it every night. She's like, I couldn't even, there wasn't room on the couch. Like I couldn't go anywhere. I just had to be in my room.
And they got the bed because it was really cheap.
Never buy anything from a yard sale, everybody. Never do that.
So yeah, I think I did that under
That's
5.
fucking smart.
Yes, good job. You did less than 4. Okay, we're moving on. Even though I feel like I could talk about this stuff with you guys
I
for
know.
a very long
But yeah,
period of time.
Getty Squared,
Yeah.
you'll be glad you did. And
I'm
what's the
absolutely
book that
going
you were
to.
saying?
Modern Eastern
Something.
Western medicine, modern world Western medicine.
Okay, I'll find out.
Something like that.
I'm listening to Lenny Dykstra's book on tape now. That guy's a
Preparing for the Bagel Boss
Yeah.
fight.
Oh.